2020. Give me a kick there. Look, here, Kevin. Here's what I need you to do. I need you all to stand up right now, okay? I want you to put your hands together like this with this, okay? This is how we're going to go out 2020, all right? I want you to take everything that was bad, that you didn't like, that was tough, all the COVID crap, all the racial tension, all the stuff, put it in this guitar right here. We're ending 2020 the right way. We're putting it behind us, right? Are you ready? Give me something. Bring it up. Come on. Yeah! 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 That's right. That's how we do it here. That's the way to do 2020, right? Hey, give a hand to the band one more time. I got ditched out of the band today because someone had to speak. So, Tabber, you're an amazing drummer. Thanks for playing for us today, buddy. One of my favorite drummers of all time is that guy right there. So, thanks for coming today. We didn't, like Dave said, we didn't know if 5 people were going to be here or 50 or what. So we're so glad that you're here. Thanks for letting me break some stuff too. That's been my dream is to do that. And I'm always the drummer, so I never get to break the guitar at the end of the concert. So at least 2020, that's fulfilled that part of my dream to do that. So thank you for letting me do that. So for me, guys, 2020, like you, it's been hard. Right? It's been tough. You know, for me, I turned 44 this year. Now, if you know, my last name is 4, if you haven't met me before, and the number 4 is a big deal to me, okay? It's a really big deal to me and everything. So I was looking to 44, which I turned 44 in July, like it was going to be a celebration of the entire year. I mean, we were going to make T-shirts. It was just going to be a thing. Aaron's 44. And it's been, to be honest with you, one of the hardest years of my life. And not necessarily just because of COVID. That's been part of it too, but there's been a lot of deep pain for me. Relationships, some loss and some of those things. Really, really tough. I know I'm not any different than many of you. You've gone through some of those things. You threw that pain in that guitar with me the same way. I'm trying to get that out. But for me, what's been really amazing is how people have cared for me. And there's been a lot of people who've cared for me. And I'm super, super thankful for my family and other people who've done that. I know many of you have those similar experiences too. But I want to thank 3 people in particular. And I think I have a picture of them up here. Hopefully I have a picture. But it's 3 people who I work with. Maybe we don't have a picture. 3 people who I work with. And Krista Ross, Scott Reeves, and Brian Ross. And these 3 have really, you should give them a hand, actually. Yeah. Because Dave highlighted a lot of the stuff that's going on at church, and our staff's amazing, our volunteers are amazing, but these 3 have filled in places for me when I've been broken, when I've just been in pain. They've come around me and cared for me. Without even knowing it, sometimes they're like, hey, I got that. I'm going to take care of that for you. You know how special that is? It's something so special. It's hard to put words to it. It's hard to describe it. There's a word that people use. It's called Koinonia. And we're going to get in that word. I don't like this word, honestly. It's one of these words I grew up with, but kind of how I was dealing with the pain and the stuff was these guys caring for me. This is what you would call koinonia, and some people would call it that. I don't like the word, but they would care for me, and this is what I would do. I would go shoot baskets almost every night. That was my way of kind of wrestling through this, and it's kind of funny. I'm like a numbers guy, so I would shoot 100 free throws a night whenever I could, and then I would run lines for the free throws that I missed. And so right now I'm shooting 68%. So that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. It is impressive. Sam's impressed with that. So I feel good about that, though, because Shaq, for his career, shot 52%. So I'm better than Shaq. I mean, if Shaq and I are going to line up, I'm going to take him out. And then LeBron right now, for his career, is shooting 73%. So I'm better than Shaq, almost to LeBron. My hope is by the end of 2021 to be shooting 73% and be LeBron. So that's kind of how I've dealt with some of the stuff this year, is just going shooting hoops and getting through it. And then people who are caring for me. And there's this word, like we said, it's called Koinonia. And I don't like this word because I grew up in church. And the word Koinonia has a bad flavor in my mouth, if that makes sense. It doesn't sit well with me because I grew up in the church, and Koinonia was this. Koinonia is really the word for fellowship in Greek. And I grew up where fellowship, we had these fellowship times where it was like a potluck, right? If you grew up in church, you knew what I'm talking about. We're like, hey, we're having fellowship hour. We're going to all bring some sort of food, and the food's okay. But growing up and kind of getting used to church and even kind of walking away from it for a while was like, that's just this, Koinonia was this idea of this kind of fake fellowship stuff. It wasn't real. And I would bag on it. In fact, Carlton and I earlier today were talking about he was in some group called Koinonia. We go through our phases in church where we name it things, and it's one of those weird words. So, it's one of the things that I haven't enjoyed when we say that word. Like, there's other trigger words for us that if you've grown up in church that you're like, I don't like that. That's one of them for me. But as I started digging into that word, the Greek word for fellowship that's used in Acts 22:42 that we're going to look in here today, they started digging into the history of it. You come to a guy named Epicurus. Epicurus actually lived about 300 years before all the church stuff was going on. And he had a group where Epicureans, where they had a whole way of life and doctrines and philosophy. A lot of people were affected by it. You may know of another philosopher named Horace. He actually has the whole thing where he says, Carpe diem, seize the day, kind of influenced by this guy too. So he had some influence on some people, but this idea of koinonia really came from him. He coined that phrase, and the early Christians kind of looked at that and took it and said, hey, that's a good idea. But the idea of koinonia is to be like-minded, of the same mind, is really what it is. And we see it throughout the New Testament. But this idea of being like-minded in Epicurus' mind was more around the idea of intellectualism, of this is what we do together. And it was more of an elite crew that did that together. And he was welcoming to other people, but it was more of a philosophical thing. We see the Christians, they get into this whole church thing, and they start trying to figure it out. And you read in Acts 2:42, you see this, it says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship. That's that word koinonia right there. To the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, with many wonders and signs and performed by the apostles. All the believers were together, and they had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give anyone who had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread and then their homes, and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. So this koinonia idea was actually influenced by guys like Epicurus. You can see even some of the stuff that they put in there. They obviously relate and connect very much with Christ's love and Christ's sacrifice, and it's part of the koinonia. But this idea, it kind of weaves throughout the rest of the New Testament. So Epicurus' koinonia was a little bit different than the Christian koinonia. It was more about their associations and their group and their club to some degree. And the Christians were really trying to say, hey, we want everybody to be involved in this. So the Christian koinonia there kind of looks like some communes. If you lived through the 60s, you may see some communes that popped up, Christian communes. Connected with that, we kind of said, that's not a good idea anymore, but that was a part of what's going on. So you see in Acts 2:42, actually, the church after that moment, it starts to fall apart. In fact, the rest of the New Testament is Paul trying to put it back together. If you read the epistles, you see him going through that. And so this idea of koinonia, Christian koinonia, is so hard to describe. Like it's hard for me to describe my relationship with my friends who I work with and serve together with. It's a difficult thing. So today I thought I'd do something different because one of the ways I think it helps us describe this idea of koinonia, this idea of fellowship and community in this Christian way, as I see it in foster parenting and families who decide to do that. And so we have the privilege of having on our staff my friend Sam, who is our family pastor, and he and his wife Stacy have been foster parents, and I wanted to share their story today. So would you welcome my friend Sam Boone as he comes today? We're going to talk a little bit. Sam and I have been friends for 20 years, and it's just he's our family pastor, he and Stacy, and they're doing an incredible job. As like Dave said, through this COVID time, he moved here, and then 2 months later, COVID started. So, difficult way to start to do church and do those things. But Sam, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
And I've watched you kind of go through this journey for the last, I don't know how many years you guys been doing foster care now.
Yeah, maybe 5 years.
5 years, and it's been really inspiring and crazy and hard, all those things. But can you tell us a little bit how you guys got into foster care?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Yeah, foster care started for Stacy and myself. It actually started before we were even married. We said if we can't have our own kids, we're going to adopt. And God blessed us with 2 beautiful girls. And a little bit later down the road, we had some friends who did foster care, and we had a front row seat to see what their life looked like, the pain and the difficulty, the joy, and we just began to see like, wow, maybe, is that something God's calling us to?
Right.
And so we began to pray about it. We prayed for several years, for quite a while.
Right.
And ultimately it came to a place for us to recognize like, there is such a need. I mean, there's almost 500,000 kids in the United States that are in foster care. And we said, wow, that is such a big need. We have a pretty good family.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not world's greatest family. I mean, maybe we are. I don't know. But
get a cup, a mug.
Yeah, we got a cup. Yeah. My daughter gave me a mug for Christmas. It's we're a pretty good family. We're pretty good parents. We said, I think we can do this. And so we just stepped right into it. And really for us, our intent when we stepped into it was we're just going to love whatever kid God brings into our family. And whether that's short term, whether that's long-term in adoption, we're going to love these kids, and we're going to love them like they're our own kids.
Yeah.
And so we talked with the girls, and they said, yep. And so we just jumped right in.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
Sam. I watched you guys do that. So I wonder for you, what's been the most painful or challenging part of this journey for you in being foster parents, foster family? How's it gone for you?
Yeah. For us, the challenging part was never the kids. Like, that was the great part. That was the easy part. The challenging part was everything else. Stepping into a broken system.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get a great social worker, sometimes you get an awful one. And that changes the experience.
Yeah.
Stepping into the brokenness of these families' lives, where the kids come with a lot of baggage, there's a lot of trauma, and really as foster parents, we are inserting ourselves right into the middle of that brokenness.
Right.
And it can be messy, it can be difficult, be painful, and I think for us, the thing that Stacy and I thought about was like, that's what God does for us.
Yeah.
That's what God does for us. He inserts himself right into the middle of the brokenness of our world and the brokenness of our lives. And as Christians, that's what God calls us to do, to insert ourselves into the brokenness. And for us specifically, for Stacy and I specifically, that meant foster care.
Yeah.
And with that, it brought some pain. When we say we're going to love kids like they're our own kids, we're going to love them like their own kids, whether it's 6 months, whether it's a year, whether it's forever, we're going to love them. And having kids that we love deeply taken out of our home, and having to go somewhere we're not sure, is it going to be a good place, is it not, that's really painful. That was really, really hard, really difficult for us and our whole family, for our girls, and I was so proud of our girls in that, because when we had kids taken out of our home and they had to go back, it was a heartbreaking thing for us. And yet our girls, we said, if you guys want out of this, we're not going to keep doing this. It's too much. And they said, no, Dad, there's too many hurting kids. We need to love them. We have a good family. We can do this. And so we did. I'm glad we did. You saw the picture up front. We ended up being able to adopt our little son Danny. He's 3 now, and we adopted him about 1.5 years ago. And so that's been great. But yeah, there's definitely some pain and challenge and difficulty in
Pretty amazing for your daughters to say to you, we're in.
They've been incredible. They've been rock stars.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what has it taken for you to do this well? Because I know there's just a lot of details to this. It's a lot of struggle.
Yeah.
What has it taken for you to do this well, to be a foster parent? And now adopt Danny.
It's taken a lot of people surrounding us. I mean, our immediate family, like Stacy and the girls, but also our extended family. Both of our parents, Stacy's parents, my parents, have been amazing. Actually, Stacy's parents are here in service today, and they've both been just amazing. Loving each child in our home, like it's their own grandchild, whether it's permanent or not. And they know that sets them up for some pain.
Yeah.
And they've done that well. We've had some incredible friends who have come along. You talk about this idea of like Koinonia, friends who would come alongside us and not just say, hey, we're with you and we're way over here and you're over here, but no, we're going to be in the midst of this. We're going to step into the mess with you. And I think of some specific friends who said, we're going to let our kids play with your kids, even though they're still in foster care, and maybe they're going to go back, maybe they're not. They've been traumatized. What if your kid does something to my kid? And they're like, nope, we're just going to jump. We're all in this with you. And that was beautiful. And for me, that changes the perspective of when I, as a Christian, you hear about the body of Christ or the church as a family, and experiencing that firsthand of, hey, when one weeps, we all weep. When one rejoices, we all rejoice. And experiencing that kind of community has been like meaningful. I think for us, like in the foster system, having families that are further along than us has been really helpful for us, who have done foster care, who we can just vent to when I'm frustrated, I'm out of my mind, and hey, how do you handle this? How do you deal with this? I think the uniqueness for us is, being a white family, adopting a black son, having some friends who came along, and I remember one of our friends, she came over and she's like, let me show you how to do his hair. Yeah. Hair's important. Yeah. And so you got to do his hair, and here's the product, and here's the comb, and here's how you do it, and here's how you keep his skin hydrated. And don't let him get dry. All those are things. Like it's been a learning curve for us. Yeah. Like how do we deal with that? And I think especially in our cultural climate right now with the tension around race, having some good black friends who we could have some really meaningful conversation with and just be able to ask questions, friends who we've known for a really long time and have been really just great to us, and be able to see, like, how do you handle this? How do you handle this with your kids? Yeah. When these sort of conversations come up, what's that like for you guys? And that's been good for us to have that kind of, that safe place to be able to ask those questions. And, it's been a lot of people. It's a lot of people investing in their lives. And I think, you hear the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that's true probably for every child. And I've experienced that so much more in our foster journey.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So, if you're other families, would you want to connect with them?
Oh gosh, yeah. So if you've done adoption in the past and you're like further down the road, like reach out to us, man. We'd love to connect. We'd love to hear how that's been. If you're black families and man, when you got kids, we'd love to hear your journey. I'd love to learn from you. Stacy and I we're still learning. We're still, we've got kids who are 20 and 17 and 3 or almost 3, and we're still learning, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Sam, there's a video on Facebook that you posted,
right?
You and Danny.
Yeah.
And you get him. It's 2 years old riding a bike, which is
right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
I think we have the video. Hopefully, they can show it, and you can see in the background.
I'm riding my bike.
Are we going to take a video of it? Yeah. What do you have to do to ride your bike? Do you pedal?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to do it?
Where do we do it?
Here we go. You got to look what you're doing. You pedal. Pedal.
Go, Danny, go! Oh my gosh. Danny has learned to ride a bike at age 2.
Pretty cool. I'm still struggling. So, yeah. Well, Sam, thank you for what you're doing. Then families, if you're a family here at Riverbend, please connect with Sam and Stacy. And we have lots of great community pastors, Mark Johnson, Travis Taylor, Dean, Paulette. We have some great family pastors and community pastors here. Please connect. Will you guys give Sam a hand? Thank you so much for being here, buddy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So I love that picture of Danny riding his bike, because to me, that's a little bit of a description of this koinonia idea. And it's different than the potluck that I grew up with. There's something that says, okay, I don't understand. I can't explain all these things that come around this, but I'm gonna dive into this, and I'm gonna figure this out, and it's probably gonna be messy. It's probably gonna be hard. The reality about Christian koinonia, and this is hard to say, but it's in essence, it's impossible. It is. Because the reality is, even with Sam and Stacy and Danny, they're going to mess things up. And they're my closest friends, but they are because they're human. The reality is Christian koinonia, the stuff we see in Acts and stuff we see through the New Testament particularly, it's impossible. It really is. Because we're broken. Because I'm broken. Because I started my sermon out today talking about the brokenness of my life. And it's hard. In fact, I think Christians have been trying to figure this thing out for 2,000 years. We're still wrestling through it. I'm still here today going like, what does this mean? I can't describe it. I don't know how to do this. It's difficult. Because really, after the Acts church in Acts 2, it was all messed up. And they spent the rest of the New Testament trying to get it back to that moment when they were like, hey, we're together. We love each other with this pure love, with this perfect love and this connectedness. It's like something we want, but we've been wrestling with it for thousands of years. You know, I think it's easy to be like-minded koinonia around hate and division. In like 5 seconds, I get everybody pumped up about the guitar, and we're going to smash this thing and get mad at stuff, right? It's so quick and easy as humans to go, oh, hate, division. I can go there in a second. It's easy for me. It's easy for you too. Look at Facebook. It's not hard to see, right? But the hatred and the division, and whether it's loud and proud or if it's sneaky, it gets in there and it messes with this koinonia. It really, really does. It starts to pull us apart. And sometimes its own hurt, its own brokenness, it turns into all sorts of things. The other thing for you I wanted to see today is, and for me too, is loving without labels. You know, I think this idea of loving people, this koinonia, loving people without labels is the purest form of Christian koinonia. Because, you know, my friends who cared for me, they weren't looking for something in return. They weren't saying, oh, we have to get paid for this or doing this. They just cared for me. But it's hard, right? Loving people without the labels is so difficult because the hate and the other things comes from that. It's really easy to label someone and say, they're this, they think this. They wear the mask, they don't wear the mask. They're Republican, they're Democrat. They're this side, they're that side. They're California, they're Texas. They're this theology, they're that theology. It's really, really, really easy to label someone and then hate them and create division. It's so easy. It's as easy as picking up a guitar and swinging it around. It goes like that. But to love people without labels is hard. It's hard work. It's messy. Because I have to do a bunch of work on the inside of me to say, all right, God, I got to pull this apart because I have labeled this person or this group of people. And it's so hard. It's why Christians, I think, have been wrestling with this for 2,000 years, because it's not easy. And there's only one person who's done it 100%. And it's encapsulated in the person of Jesus Christ. He's the only one. He's it. I wish I could say I was 100% on it, but I'm not. I wish I could say I was 100% at loving the way that Jesus is, but I'm not. I'm broken. Doing the best I can. We experience true koinonia, the word that I hate, that I'm hopefully going to try to redeem, when we really get out of ourselves and begin to love people with this love that Christ has, that is this powerful. And for me, this last year, as I've been shooting hoops and thinking, there's 4 things that have come to me that I'm going to really focus on this next year, and I'm going to invite you to do this with me too. The first thing is stop trying to figure out motive. I think one of the hardest things for us is we look at a person or a group of people and we start to say, this is what they think and this is what they feel. And it quickly becomes divisive, and it's easy to label that person as whatever they are. But if I stop trying to figure out their motive and just say, you're a child of God, it's much, much easier. Whether it's the people in my church, people in my community, all the different places, it's a much easier thing for me to do if I stop worrying about the motive. It's hard to do, but I think it's the beginning of that. The next part for me is realize all humans are looking for value. When I'm really, really frustrated with people and they're doing stupid stuff or things that make me angry or frustrated, when I get back to the point that I realize that all people are looking for value, and I am too. And sometimes the things that are going on in my Christian community or my community out in Austin or other places, sometimes the things that are making me really angry and really frustrated is just another human being who's broken, who's also looking for value. And when I get to that place that says, you know what? You're looking for value too. I am too. I begin to bond with them. I begin to connect with them. Comparison. It's really, really easy for me to compare myself to others. And it's a way that I make myself feel better. But it's really, really detrimental to the koinonia, to the fellowship, when I compare. I started off earlier today saying, hey, I was better than Shaq at free throws, not quite as good as LeBron. We do that. It's so hard. But those are one of the things that I think that starts to derail the Christian community and the koinonia. The fourth thing is don't define yourself or others by yours or their worst day. It's hard to do that because we want to define people by sometimes their worst day. Everything is known and seen in our society because of all of our Facebook and Instagram and just everything being videotaped. We see everybody's worst day, don't we? It's really easy to say, oh man, I'm defining them by their worst day, or me. Worst day, week, month, or year. If you define me by this last year, it'd be pretty ugly, to be honest with you. But I think this is what Christ does for me. I think this is what he does for us. He says, I don't see you that way. So part of this family, this koinonia, this unique calling that God has for us as a church to love each other this way is, I think, letting some of those things go. Because the reality is when I see Sam and Danny riding the bike, there's no labels that Sam has ever put on Danny. He's never said, I'm going to love you if you do this and that. He never said, you're a part of my family if you do these things, or if you're this way, or whatever it is. He just says, hey, you're a part of my family. Come here. Let's go ride a bike. And that picture for me is just so beautiful. That begins to be koinonia. That's what I want to be. I want to be that for people. But the reality is I'm broken, right? I can't do it. I wish I shot 100% free throws on loving people that way. I wish that was my percentage. I want it to be that percentage, but it's not. I'm never going to be that way. But the reality is, what I'm going to commit to in 2021, and I hope you do it with me too, is I'm going to keep putting my shoes on. I'm going to keep going to the gym. I'm going to keep shooting free throws. And I may not shoot 100%, but I'm going to keep after it. And I think that's what God is calling us to do with koinonia. He's not expecting us to be perfect because we're broken. I'm never going to be perfect, but I want you to keep trying. I want you to keep loving. I want you to keep trying to care for people. That process, that journey is what it's about. That's what koinonia is. Somehow we've made this whole Christian thing an event. It's a journey. On Christmas Day, I watched LeBron James miss a free throw, like airball it. Airball the free throw. And I was like, I'm better than him. Right? So if LeBron James is going to miss a free throw on Christmas Day, like by a foot, one of the best players ever, I'm not going to define him by that. I hope that we don't define each other by that anymore. We say, you know what? I'm going to give him grace. I'm going to love him because, I really, really, really think as broken, as messed up as we are, and we are, it's still the plan that God has for our community to see this, to see a group of people who say, you know what? I'm going to try the best I can. I'm going to keep lacing it up and shooting free throws and do the best I can because that's all I got. It may be ugly, but it's what I got. So 2021, I'm done with 2020. This is what I want to focus on this year. These 4 things. I'm going to press into it. I'm going to keep doing it. I hope you'll go on that journey with me. It won't be an event for you. Would you do me a favor? Would you stand with me? I want us to pray together. And the band's we're going to play another song, but I want you to I want you to feel God's love in the midst of all of it. Your own pain, your own struggles, all those things. I want you to feel it in a way maybe you haven't in a while. I want you to just go like, okay, God, I'm going to receive it. And as we pray and as we worship, as we close 2020, last Sunday of 2020, I want you to receive that and feel it, and I want you to start to think about, God, how am I going to give this love back out? I know it's a lot to ask at the end of a service, the end of 2020, but I believe this is what God wants us to do. I believe this is where we're at. I believe this is where he wants us to press into. So would you pray with me and we'll sing together? Lord, be with us today. God, as we walk away from this crazy year and all this stuff, as we leave it behind, God, we're looking forward to 2021. God, help us to be the group of people that shines your love in this building, outside this building, and around the world. We may not be perfect, we may not shoot 100%, but we're going to keep after it. So Lord, thank you so much for this group of people that we get to be together and do this, God. Let us feel your love and your grace and your mercy today, and help us to be people who give this out to others. Pray this in your name. Amen.